2 years. I was going through that for 2 years. If it would have been like the first year or something that like I ended up going to trial, like it probably would have been a lot harder. But like after dealing with that for 2 years, like I was going through so many ups and downs. Like I kind of like got used to living like that. So it was like, but once the actual trial started, like it's a different feeling because knowing that like you might not walk out of here is not a good feeling. It just fucking sucks. But yeah.
And I remember the verdict comes down. Everybody, the media outlets are starting to pick it up, and I don't know how other media outlets feel, but I remember I reached out to you too. Mm-hmm. And I know I was one of the outlets that posted the accusation. And I know how big the platform is. And I felt it was upon me, and also me being a man, to be like, hey, when you post that accusation, people are looking at this kid in the weirdest, wildest ways. Mm-hmm. He's went through hell and back, and he's been vindicated. You have to try to make this as loud as possible. Because the accusation just always is so much louder than the truth coming out, which is the vindication. And what's your thoughts after that? Because like it's probably just hard to snap back to just, okay, let's get back to music.
Yeah.
Like you're probably now got to unwind this. You've lost 2 years of momentum. What are you noticing like in the space? Because again, you have these songs that were lit, but like you're not necessarily moving around performing them all the time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that whole 2 years, honestly, like I started just drinking every day, just trying to get my mind off any way I can. So like I would say like 2 months before like the trial and stuff happened, I quit everything, quit popping pills, quit drinking, quit everything. And like, so I was still going through withdrawals and shit for a while. And like, I was going through that trial, like still like it's crazy anxiety, crazy, just like still trying to learn like how to just cope with this shit. And so when the shit was over and I was trying to get back into just being an artist, and like, it wasn't easy. Like I couldn't even hop on a plane without like tweaking. Like I would just like be like craziest anxiety, the craziest like
anxiety, everything
super
is
overwhelmed. Like everything was super overwhelming. So just trying to do anything like just interviews and shit. Like, I just wasn't like ready for it. Like, and doing even shows. Like I was turning down Rolling Loud, turned down Lyrical Lemonade. Like people were hitting me up trying to do stuff, but I just couldn't handle it. Like I just wasn't like there. Like Trippy brought me out. Like Rolling Loud was like 2 days after. Or it was like the same weekend the verdict happened or whatever. Or like yeah. That I got acquitted, and Trippy brought me out, and it was just so like I was just like could barely do it. Like I just knew I had to do it, but when like Thailand Rolling Loud happened like a few weeks later, and I just like I was like I can't do it. Like I just can't, like, cause one, being sober, trying to like kind of relearn that, but then on top of that, just trying like I didn't. It's so hard to tell like who's gonna like try me and who's gonna like be.
Yeah, and also you haven't processed this witch hunt that you've been subjected to for 2 years. People looking at you thinking the worst.
Every time I go out, I'll just think like people are looking at me like thinking the worst of me, and like shit was just hard to get back into the music.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought when I first seen the verdict. I said, and I remember I said, whenever you're ready, we could talk. But I knew those 2 years of, probably was even hard to be on Instagram looking through your DMs.
Yeah.
People were probably just saying the worst things to you. Mm-hmm. And for you to get back to like, of course, in the eyes of how society and the law works, is like, all right, nothing happens to the person who just did this or, made all these allegations against you. You just got to go back to being normal. You're like, the fuck? Like, you basically ripped me from limb by limb, thread by thread, and now I got to go back to being a regular person. So you get sober, which is a good thing. But now, because you're not like drowning out your thoughts about all of these things you're going through, it's hard for you to do a lot of regular shit. Mm-hmm. How do you kind of get back on the wagon and, even start learning that, hey, listen, man, this life is fucked up. You're going to have some people who are going to lie on you. You're going to have some people who are going to do this. And as crazy as it sounds, you're going to have to get through it and keep going. Was it fair? Fuck no. Yeah, but it is what it is.
Yeah. It's just something you got to just deal with. Like, it took a while, bro. Like, I'm still like adjusting. Like, I'm kind of like finding my swag back and like getting back into it. But it took a while. The first year, I was also trying to leave my label, and it took a while to get out of that deal. So, 'cause I still owed them a few albums, but I didn't owe no money. So, you know, we ended up working it out. But shit was not easy to just jump back right into. Plus, I gotta change people's mind. I gotta change everybody's mind now. Like, I gotta like, and they explain to people and like get out there that like I'm innocent and like it's what was said about me isn't true. So like I'm trying to change the narrative and trying to like show that I'm who I am. I'm a human. Like, and
is it also tough to trust other people at that point? Because what happens when you start living that life is that you realize people who like the lifestyle, you see a lot of people come around, and sometimes it might not be directly all connected to you. It might be connected to somebody who's your homie. And then you realize it's a lot of people who, when something like that happens to you, you look at it and be like, yeah, I don't want too many people around me no more. Like, I got to move different. I want to have a small team, a couple people I trust. I move like that. I'm going to leave the other shit behind.
No, yeah. When I move around, I move, but dolly now, because like just so much shit that comes with being around. You don't know like what people are on. Plus like how they're gonna affect you, how they're gonna like what they could do to you, but also just like what they do to people while they're around you. Like you gotta watch who's just whether people are the right people to have around you. So plus like when that shit happened, like you know how many people like everybody that I knew and everybody that like was cool with me like kind of stopped talking to me, like just like
really.
Not everybody. Like there was a lot of people that hit me up and was like, "Yo, like da da da."
But people got a little distance.
Everybody got distance, and like I get it. Like that's how it go. Like I'm not mad at it. I'm not. I don't. It's no hatred towards nobody. I get it 100%. But it's just that whole time I was just by myself, just dealing with this shit. Like, of course, I got my day one homies around me, but like as far as like the people that like were supporting me before, like. A lot of them aren't, so it's like so then now that like I'm done and I'm like able to just like focus on my shit, like I can't really look at a lot of people the same as I did before.
Now I'm gonna ask you a question, and I'm giving a disclaimer. It might seem a little tricky, but I'm not trying to make it tricky. You're obviously innocent, but do you feel like any situations, or maybe how you were living, or maybe the people you were allowing into your circle or whatever. Do you think, in hindsight, any of that contributed to those false allegations happening? And now thinking about it, do you second guess all of those things to make sure you don't even remotely get to a position that anybody could ever put you in that position again?
Yeah. I mean, I was just around so many different people like every single night. So like sooner, like you never know, like anybody could want something from you, or like just not everybody's a good person. So like you're around so many people all the time, you're bound to be around somebody who wants to like do you dirty in some way. So yeah, it's just like being around the wrong people. Plus like you don't know the intentions of like even someone you think is your homie, like you never know. So yeah, I try to just pay attention to who's around me and like just keep my circles super small, like smaller than ever. So
yeah, definitely. I'm glad that number one, you faced the fire. I think people are always so quick to put the noose around someone's neck after allegations, but they never are down to say, hey, we collectively owe you an apology even if we repeated the allegations, whether we believed it or not. Because that's a huge thing. Some people just hear it.
Yeah.
They don't even need the person who's saying it to believe it. They'll just be like, oh, this got to be true. Because there's a lot of people that, I've noticed this about the entertainment industry, especially people that's not in it. They want to think the people who have made it have sold their soul, or really fucked up people.
Yeah.
And they're the good people that aren't down to do those things. So they didn't make it.
Yeah.
So it's easier to believe, oh, he was having all that success. Oh, I know he was doing that dirty shit over there, right? They want to believe that. They don't want to believe that you're just like them. Like you have a pure heart. You're a good person. You wouldn't hurt anyone. Like you wouldn't try to take advantage of anybody. But that's the thought. Do you kind of, even seeing how either a bunch of people jumped on the allegations, and maybe even still to this day. I don't know if you're still like having to explain shit.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? My nigga, I missed. What the fuck you talking about?
Yeah, not as much, but like, definitely when it first like happened, for like, the first like few months at least, like it was like having to remind people. Still to this day sometimes, but not as much, but definitely.